I made the decision today to stop drinking alcohol. Even though I've enjoyed a glass of wine pretty much every evening for most of my adult life, I've decided to stop for really no other reason than it's good for my health. My goal at the age of 67 is to live as long and as productive a life as possible. Also, the single glass of wine that I was drinking each evening at around 6 p.m. was really probably more like 2 glasses of wine because it was in one of these big glasses right here, and I would fill it about 3/4 of the way up. So that would be really more like 2 glasses of wine at a restaurant. I never drink hard alcohol or beer, rarely drink beer, pretty much just drink wine. I started doing this because I like the taste of wine and it seemed like a pretty good way to relax. It kind of became a marker for the end of the workday, a kind of ritual, kind of signaled that it was now time to relax. But I've decided to end this ritual. And I'm making this video really for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I wanted to hold myself accountable. If I keep this commitment private, I'm less likely to keep this commitment. So by announcing this decision publicly, I'll look like a fool if I don't follow through and keep this commitment. And you can use this approach for really any goal or commitment that you decide to make. By announcing your commitment publicly, you're about 1,000% more likely to keep your commitment. If you announce your decision to quit alcohol, quit smoking, or some other vice publicly, you're much more likely to follow through with your decision. So that's reason number 1, hold myself accountable by announcing this decision and commitment publicly. And the second reason for doing this is that maybe this video will inspire others to do this. Even though I'm very health conscious in every other area, I rationalized the wine drinking because of studies some time ago that told us that there are some health benefits to drinking red wine. Most notably benefits to the heart, might prevent heart attacks. Then it turned out that most of these studies were funded by the Wine Institute and European winemakers. And the so-called Mediterranean diet then became popular because the Mediterranean diet includes moderate wine consumption. The Mediterranean diet emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, and fish, plus a glass of wine for dinner. But the more recent scientific work indicates that there are no benefits whatsoever to alcohol consumption, and lots of harm. The only health benefit to drinking red wine is the grape part of the wine, which is better gained by eating actual purple grapes. Or even better, eat blueberries. Generally, the darker the fruit, the better. And I was finding that a big problem with drinking a glass of wine at 6 p.m. every evening is that it just kills motivation to do anything else, kills motivation to be productive in any way. You just kind of want to lay back in your easy chair and turn on the TV. And I decided I wanted to use the evening period to put out more content on YouTube and to write more books. I'd be able to increase my productivity each day by probably 50% if I just cut out the wine. Because I can't really do anything productive, can't do anything that requires serious brain work if I've had a glass of wine. Productivity is over after that. And the more I read up on the destruction that alcohol brings to your health, the easier it is to stop. Alcohol damages and destroys brain cells, disrupts neural pathways in the brain, creates inflammation in the brain, accelerates brain degeneration, and contributes to the onset of dementia. Alcohol damages the liver and the kidneys, accelerates aging, and damages one's physical appearance. Males with big stomachs tend to be alcohol drinkers. If you want to look better, stop drinking alcohol. And alcohol is particularly damaging to the appearance of women. Studies show that alcohol is a powerful carcinogen, leads to liver cancer, breast cancer, throat cancer, brain cancer, cancers of every kind. Alcohol is literally poison. And when you get drunk or a little tipsy, this is the poison working on your brain, destroying brain cells, disrupting neural pathways. It also destroys your liver because your liver has to process this poison and protect your body and brain from this poison. And the liver is very good at this, but alcohol is very destructive to the liver, which you need to live. And the liver is not able to get rid of all the poison. Some seeps out of the liver into your body, into your brain, into your bloodstream. And the feeling of being tipsy is the feeling of your brain being destroyed. And even one glass of wine destroying my motivation, well, that's the poison working on my body and my brain. Alcohol is water and fat soluble. Our bodies are about 60% water, 25% fat. That's if you're in good shape. So alcohol seeps into every cell in your body and causes the destruction of cells. Every cell. And that's why alcohol is a very powerful carcinogen, which is very good at causing cancers. And the more you learn about how alcohol damages every cell in your body, including your brain, the sooner you're going to want to stop, unless you don't care about your life. So I've decided to stop. Knowledge really is power in this area. And if you want to go more deeply into the destruction to your brain and health that even moderate drinking brings, Dr. Andrew Huberman has a great 2.5-hour video on this, and I'll link to that below.
The key thing to understand here is that when you ingest alcohol, you are, yes, ingesting a poison. It is the poison, the acetaldehyde itself, that leads to the effect of being inebriated or drunk. I think most people don't realize that being drunk is actually a poison-induced disruption in the way that your neural circuits work.
I wish I'd made the decision to stop drinking a glass of wine every night decades ago, but I'm making that decision now. And the key word here is it is a decision. It can't just be a goal, like my goal is to be able to do 100 push-ups, which might or might not happen. Probably won't happen at the age of 67. A decision is more absolute. I decide to make a right turn, not a left turn. Decision sounds a lot like the word incision, or to cut. I decide to go down this path, not that path. Wanda and I choose not to have junk food in the house, because junk food is very addictive, it's poison, and we know that if it's in the house, we're going to eat it. I'm not able to eat just one potato chip or a few potato chips. Put a bag of potato chips in front of me, and I'm going to eat the whole bag. And of course, the food companies have purposefully designed the food this way, to be as addictive as possible, which is why so many Americans look like this. When I was growing up, Americans looked more like this. But if there's no bag of potato chips there, it won't cross my mind to eat potato chips. If the bag is there, in easy hand reach, I'll eat them all. Gambling is addictive if I'm in the casino and start playing the games. So the first step to quitting wine drinking was to have no wine in the house. In my book, Win Life, Success Skills Schools Don't Teach, I have a chapter titled Brainwash Yourself to Success. When I was a teenager, I was a serious ski racer and very much into athletics. And I started reading books by Adele Davis on how to eat right, such as her book, Let's Eat Right to Keep Fit. And her books persuaded me that processed sugar is poison. So I became pretty fanatical about avoiding processed sugar. Up until then, I liked sugar, was drinking Coca-Colas all the time. But I became a fanatic about avoiding processed sugar because of these books by Adele Davis. Natural sugars and fruits are fine, but not processed sugar. And once I was convinced that sugar is poison, I had no problem avoiding sugar. And sugar actually started tasting awful to me. Practically would make me throw up. And of course, there's lots of processed sugar in cereal, including cereals like Raisin Bran, which are advertised as healthy.
Kellogg's Raisin Bran is health food the family will actually eat.
Just about every packaged food is loaded with sugar. Wanda and I are pretty fanatical about reading the ingredients of any food we buy, and we try very hard not to buy packaged foods because those foods are filled with poisons. Lots of salt, sugar, and all kinds of dyes and poisons that RFK Jr. is talking about.
This is what most Americans innocently put into their bodies these days, and most alarmingly, into the bodies of their children. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Cap'n Crunch, gummy bears. The ingredients include a lot of poisons, including a harmful yellow dye called tartrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of this sludge. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads. But then a British chemist figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? Food manufacturers began using it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. They didn't know back then that this yellow dye, tartrazine, causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries. Well, we know it now. Today it's made from petroleum, not coal tar. Either way, it's crazy to add this to your kids' favorite foods. It doesn't even change the flavor. It's in sports drinks like Gatorade and so-called vitamin water. It's even added to chicken broth, to corn, to pickles, to mustard, and to yogurt. And so, of course, our kids get sick. And we lovingly feed them chewable vitamins which have, surprise, tartrazine. And so the cycle continues until the coughs and asthma kick in. I've been picking on tartrazine today, but that's just one of at least 100 chemical poisons that our health agencies allow into our children's food.
And once you're convinced that whatever you're eating or drinking is poison, it's pretty easy to stop consuming it. Natural vegetables and fruits start tasting much better. And I'm persuaded now that alcohol is poison at any level of consumption. It's a path to an early grave, dementia, and all kinds of health problems. So I've decided to stop drinking this poison. I mean, if somebody handed you rat poison that tastes really great and causes a buzz, would you consume any of it? Of course not. And it would be very easy for you to say no to taking this rat poison that might taste great and might cause a buzz because you know that it's rat poison. Well, alcohol is akin to slow-acting rat poison, or maybe worse. So today I completed my first day, my first evening of my no more alcohol commitment. And now that I've made this decision, this commitment, I think it's going to be pretty easy for me to follow through on it. The challenge, though, is that the human brain is a pleasure-seeking machine. It's an addiction machine. Drinking a glass of wine is pleasurable. The human brain also loves habits, loves routines. Habits and routines become addictions. Habits are a big part of what makes life easier. We train ourselves to do things automatically. We have routines and habits that we do throughout the day that require almost zero thought. We have morning routines, evening routines, all kinds of routines. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and start writing because that's how I earn a living. My money-making work day is then pretty much done by noon. Then my daily fitness routine is breakdancing. I do that for 60 or 90 minutes a day at 4 p.m. And at age 67, I am the world's oldest actively competing breakdancer. And I started doing this at age 56 because I saw some people doing it, and I thought it looked like fun. I thought it looked like a lot more fun than going to the gym. So I made a decision to do that. I got lessons and started practicing with breakdancers. Again, the key word here is decision. I made a decision to do that. I made a decision to learn breakdancing and to practice breakdancing instead of go to the gym every day. And the breakdance training and practice turned out to be much more effective than going to the gym. I pretty quickly lost 25 pounds. And I got so I could do maybe 80 push-ups at the age of 60. Though I don't really count push-ups, I just do them until I can't do them anymore or until I feel like stopping. I have a whole philosophy and an approach on how to train correctly and get physically fit. But this video is about ending alcohol consumption. And the way to end an unhealthy addiction is to replace it with a healthy addiction. So my plan is to replace drinking wine at night with putting out another YouTube video on topics that interest me. But I can't put out YouTube videos if I have a glass of wine at night, because wine kills motivation. It also kills brain focus. So instead of a glass of wine, I'll drink a fruit and veggie smoothie at 6 p.m. And it will boost my energy because fruit and vegetables are a great source of energy. Alcohol is a depressant. The human brain is a pleasure-seeking machine. So to end an unhealthy addiction, it must be replaced with another addiction, a healthy addiction. The brain also likes habits, likes routines, and habits become addictions. If you exercise every day at exactly the same time, exercise becomes an addiction. And then if you miss a day of exercise, you actually start feeling a little bit of pain. You feel like something is missing. You feel a little bit bad because your brain craves routine. The brain is a pattern recognition machine, and the brain is a pattern repetition machine. The brain loves patterns. The brain really doesn't like to think too hard. The brain prefers a preset pattern that it can expect every day. The brain really doesn't like to use the frontal cortex of the brain, which is the executive thinking power of the brain, because that's a lot of work. The brain likes repetition, habit, routine. That's what training is. So you want daily routines that create healthy habits and healthy addictions. So at 6 p.m. every evening, my brain expects a glass of wine. And if it doesn't get the wine, it will remind me by inflicting a little bit of pain, kind of at the nuisance level. And that will be my brain nagging me for a glass of wine. It's telling me it's time for a glass of wine now. So we have to substitute this old routine, this old pleasure of the wine, which we know is poison, with a new pleasure. And this new pleasure for me will be a fruit and veggie smoothie at 6 p.m. along with dinner. And then I'll work on a YouTube video, or I'll write a few pages of a new book I'm working on, or I'll go on a walk with Wanda. Also, my favorite time of day is when I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I don't need an alarm clock. My body is trained to just wake up at 5 a.m. because it's been doing that for decades. And that's my favorite time of day. That's the time of day when my brain is clearest and sharpest. and that's the time of day when I have the most energy. And that glass of wine at 6 p.m. kills all of that. A glass of poison. And that's how to think of a glass of wine. It's a glass of poison. Hey, can you pass me that bottle of poison? I'd really like to pour myself a glass of poison. Thanks. And if you start thinking of a glass of wine or a glass of beer as poison, and if you're really persuaded that it is poison, it's going to be pretty easy for you to quit. Same goes for packaged foods. Instead of eating poison, eat real food. But that's another topic. You can brainwash yourself to success. You can brainwash yourself out of addictions. Your brain is being brainwashed all the time. The question is, with what? What are you filling your brain with? You can't avoid brainwashing, which is just programming. And people are brainwashed by the news media sources that they choose to consume. And there's good brainwashing, and there's bad brainwashing. When I was a kid in school, we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I don't know if schools do that anymore. I think that's a good form of brainwashing. Brainwashing children to be patriotic. Brainwashing yourself with pornography, that's not good. But one thing's for certain, you will be brainwashed by something. You will fill your brain with something, or if you're not filling your brain with something, someone else will be filling your brain with something. You want to direct your own brainwashing. Engage in healthy self-brainwashing. Reading the Bible every day is healthy brainwashing. And quitting alcohol requires brainwashing. And a good way to do that is just to think of that glass of wine as poison, which it actually is. Brainwash yourself with truth, not delusions. The idea that alcohol in moderation has health benefits is a self-delusion. It's a way to rationalize not ending your alcohol consumption habit, which is what I did for decades. But also you can brainwash yourself to like certain things and not other things. The human brain is very malleable, like plastic, like putty. When I first tasted coffee as a kid, I absolutely hated it. I also hated pickles. Now I love coffee, and I like pickles. And because I know that sugar is poison, I literally cannot stand anything that is sweet. I don't even like fruits that are too sweet, like pineapples. Pineapples are too sweet for me. So I'm absolutely sure that I can train my brain to actively dislike the taste of wine, knowing that in reality, it's a glass of poison. It's a bottle of poison. Again, the human brain is a pleasure-seeking, addiction-seeking machine. Your brain absolutely will be addicted to something. The question is what? If you are passive and just become addicted to whatever arrives, most likely you're going to become addicted to something unhealthy, because that's easy. Whether it's alcohol, pornography, drugs, gambling, video games, social media, and of course mega corporations with their multi-billion-dollar advertising budgets are pushing these addictions on us 24/7. And if you don't take conscious steps to protect yourself from this propaganda, from this advertising, most likely you will fall prey to unhealthy addictions. But you can train your brain to become addicted to healthy activities. And the key to that is to make the healthy activity part of your daily routine, part of your scheduled daily routine. Now, I do have mostly healthy routines. I exercise every day. I think I eat pretty well. So I thought I was entitled to one vice, that being a glass or two of wine in the evening. But that was a self-delusion, a rationalization. And I would occasionally test myself to see if I could go a week without drinking a glass of wine, just to see if I was an alcoholic. And the fact that I had to periodically test myself, check myself to see if I was an alcoholic, should have signaled to me that there was a problem. And I found that I could do it. I could go for a week without wine, but I wasn't especially happy to do that because I had not yet made a commitment to quit. But I found during these periodic tests, these 7-day periodic checkups, that if I could get through the 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock hour or through to 7:30 without giving into the temptation of pouring a glass of wine, then I'd be perfectly fine. I just had to get through that 1 hour or 90-minute period. And if I could do that, I would not think of having a glass of wine for the rest of the evening. It was just during that 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock or to 7:30 period when my mind was telling me, my brain was telling me that, gee, I'd really like a glass of wine right now. But once I got through that period, I wasn't tempted to have a glass of wine at all. My brain was on a clock. It was expecting a glass of wine at 6 p.m. because my brain had been trained over many years to expect a glass of wine at about 6 p.m. It was a timing thing, a schedule thing. And at 6 p.m. my brain would start nagging me. I might get a slight headache. My brain might conjure up an image of a glass of wine. Very tempting. But if 7:30 p.m. arrived and there was no glass of wine, then my brain would just stop nagging me. It was like a switch that turned off the little nagging sensation. My brain must have told itself, well, I guess there's no wine tonight. So I think addiction is really more like a habit. What you want to do is replace the unhealthy routine with a healthy routine. And I'm kind of using habit and routine interchangeably in this context. Daily routines become habits. You're not going to be able to quit alcohol unless you replace the unhealthy addiction, the unhealthy routine, with a healthy routine, which then becomes a healthy addiction. Because there's really no such thing as willpower. You might think there's such a thing as willpower. You might think that if you just try really hard to eat just one potato chip, that you're going to be able to do it. And you might be able to do it for a little while. But if you put that bag of potato chips within easy hand reach while you're working all day, you're going to reach for the potato chips. Because your willpower is a finite resource. You just can't grit it through with willpower for very long. You run out of energy, you run out of strength, you run out of determination. Willpower is a finite resource, and eventually it runs out. Because your brain is a pleasure-seeking machine. Because your brain's appetite for pleasure is a stronger force, a much stronger force than your willpower. So there's really no such thing as willpower. However, if the bag of potato chips is not sitting there within easy hand reach, I don't think about potato chips at all. Out of sight, out of mind. I'll be thinking about something else. I'll be thinking about whatever project I'm on or whatever has my attention right then. You break an unhealthy habit with a healthy habit that also provides pleasure. So instead of a glass of wine, I'll drink a fruit and veggie smoothie, which will also provide pleasure. It'll also provide a boost of energy. Then I'll have dinner with Wanda. Then I'll work on a YouTube project or a writing project or maybe go on a walk with Wanda. The key, I believe, is to consciously schedule something else during that 6 to 7 period or 6 to 7:30 period that will occupy my brain and distract my brain from thinking about the wine, which I now think of as a glass of poison. So just to review, here are the steps that I'm taking to quit alcohol. First, I've decided to quit. It's a non-negotiable decision. It's a commitment. This also has to be something you really want to do, not just something that you think you should do. For drug addiction, you can go to a rehab facility, but you have to want to be there. If you don't want to be there, if somebody is forcing you to go there, it's not going to work. The motivation has to be internally generated. The only way to end any addiction is to decide to end it. And that decision has to be final and non-negotiable. It can't be half-hearted. It can't just be a sort of a fuzzy goal. It has to be an ironclad decision, an ironclad commitment. Second, make it a public commitment. You don't have to make a YouTube video about it like I am here, but announce it to your family and friends. Ask them to hold you accountable. Put it in writing in the form of a signed contract. The contract could be that you will part with some painful amount of money if you break your commitment. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'll make a contract with Wanda, and you can be sure she will hold me to it. Third, replace the old unhealthy routine, which became an unhealthy addiction, with a new healthy routine, which will become the new healthy addiction. Maybe the new healthy addiction is that you go on a 3-mile walk every night at exactly that time that you usually pour that glass of wine or a glass of beer. And when you're done with the walk, the wine temptation will probably be over. The key is to schedule something else at exactly the same time that your brain was expecting the wine or the beer or the drink. At exactly the same time that your brain was expecting the poison hit. That's how you deprogram and reprogram your brain. Replace the old routine with a new routine. And soon you'll become addicted to the new routine. And you can take this approach in almost every area of life. Replace unhealthy, unproductive routines with productive habits and routines. And hopefully by ending this wine habit, this habit of poisoning myself every evening, I'll live a longer, healthier, more productive life. I'll avoid dementia and an avalanche of cascading other health problems that come with alcohol consumption. I'd like to have another 15 productive years, if possible, God willing. Okay, I'm back. Well, I was going to end the video at that point, but it's now 3 days later. So I thought I'd add this postscript. I have some good news. I've now been alcohol-free for 3 days, and it's been absolutely no problem. And again, I think the absolute key is to make a decision and an absolutely ironclad commitment to do this. Once I made this decision, this commitment to live alcohol-free for the rest of my life, I'm finding it very easy to live without alcohol. It's actually much easier to do this than to go for a week without alcohol as a part of a test to see if I was an alcoholic. That was much tougher. I would count the days until the week was up. And if I could survive the week without wine, I would consider that victory. But it was painful. I felt like I was missing something every evening at 6 p.m. The anticipation is the pain, that the ritual of wine at 6 p.m. every evening would resume again. There really wasn't any pain in actually not drinking the wine. It was the anticipation that caused the pain. The addiction is the anticipation. It's like when a dog anticipates a treat. The dog just goes berserk with anticipation, knowing that the treat is coming. Now, the treat itself isn't all that great, but the dog is thinking that this treat is just going to be fantastic. And then the treat is quickly consumed, and it's gone. But now that I've made this decision, this commitment to go without alcohol forever, it's actually 100 times easier than just taking a break from alcohol. It hasn't been painful at all because now I just know that alcohol has no place in my life. And by the way, the positive health effects have been immediate. My mind is clearer. I have much more energy. Gone is the semi-permanent brain fog that I wasn't really fully aware of until I went without alcohol for a few days. Alcohol lasts in your blood for 24 hours, lasts in your urine for 48 hours to 80 hours, and lasts in the follicles of your hair for up to 90 days. So that means alcohol is in your body at the cellular level for 60 to 90 days, at least. So now I've been alcohol-free for 3 days, and I feel great. I wonder how great I'll feel in 90 days when every trace of alcohol is out of my system down to the cellular level. Juan and I are heading out to our favorite restaurant tonight. And of course, there'll be no alcohol, iced teas for us. And the side benefit, of course, is that the restaurant bill will be a lot lower. Well, that's all I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And please hit the like and subscribe buttons, which helps the channel with the algorithm. Also, follow me on X. I'm posting all the time. And you might want to check out my book, Win Life: Success Skills Schools Don't Teach. It's available on Amazon. This book is primarily aimed at young people who are just getting launched into adulthood, but will help anyone who wants to be in the top 1% in terms of income. Or maybe you have other goals such as quitting alcohol or losing 20 pounds. This book will help you do that as well. This book will help you achieve most of what you want to achieve in life.